Yes, folks, it's John G. Sutton here. Tales from the jails. Let's put that down a little bit there. There we go. Right, I'm going to talk today a little bit about the infamous Governor Norman Brown. Now, anybody who wonders what Norman Brown looks like, yeah, you look on the BBC on YouTube for the BBC documentary Strangeways. And if you look at episode 1, Norman Brown is there. He's there all the way through because he was the governor, wasn't he? But if you look on episode 3, you'll see Norman Brown and the number 1 chief officer sitting down together and plotting my demise. For some reason, they'd take umbrage at my appearance on television talking about the disgusting conditions in Strangeways prison, which it was, and as I was the elected General Secretary of the Prison Force Federation at the time, they hadn't really got the authority to stop me from doing it, because the Trade Union Act superseded the authority of anything they could throw at me through the prison regulations. And eventually I did get away with it, but it kind of spooked everybody when they charged me. And they did so with utter impunity, as you can see if you watch that episode 3, allowing themselves to be filmed while they trumped up a charge about me. Imagine that. I mean, either you're extremely overconfident or you're out your head. But Norman Brown was, I would say, he was an old-fashioned type governor, certainly a man out of his time. But he was a gentleman. He'd a former officer in the British Army who had been injured during, I believe it was the Korean War, when he was a tank commander, and that's why his face was slightly disfigured, it burnt his ears, and he was injured during some part of the Korean War. But he had been a governor for a long time, and when I was at Strangeways, he was the number 1 governor. Now, he was a strange character, Norman Brown. He took a dislike to me because I was saying, you know, it's impossible to have a trade union that's run by the management. If that's your trade union, you don't have a trade union. You know, the basic grade officers, the frontline soldiers who are marching up and down the landings and dealing with the violence and the dirt and the degradation, if they're not represented by the union, which they can't be, because if the management was running the union, the management is running the prison and the union at the same time. It seemed to me a very difficult task, which it was, to try to get that message across to prison officers, especially when Norman Brown and was it Brian Baldwin and company told everybody that I was an agent of Colonel Gaddafi. It's all in my book, folks. It's out there, yeah. Part 2, HMP Manchester Prison Officer. Part 2. It's on Amazon right now. Anyway, I was talking about Norman Brown. It was one afternoon, and he'd been drinking in the club as usual, and he came back in and saw some inmate throw what they call a shit parcel out the window, and he obviously reckoned he knew which cell it was, on the 2s on E2 landing, and he went outside of his office, right round the side of the building, picked up this shit parcel in his hand, yeah? Shit parcel in his hand, walked into the prison, ordered the staff open that cell, and when they opened the cell, I was there, he threw this parcel of excrement at the occupants of the cell, and it hit this bloke on the shoulder and splattered all over the cell. It was one of them dribbly ones, you know. Seriously, the number 1 governor, Norman Brown, and he had shit all over his hands and all over his shirt sleeves. And the inmates, what the bloody hell's going on? Of course, who do you complain to? I mean, that's the number 1 governor. Hey, you go to complain, who do you see? The governor. Well, I've seen some things in my time, but that was a clear indication that Norman Brown was either out of his head or just plain drinking too much. He did lots of strange things like that. He got pissed one afternoon, set his office on fire and blamed me. I've previously told that in another one here, yeah. That's all in my book as well. He charged me with bringing the prison service into disrepute and offences under the Official Secrets Act. I mean, come on. All I'm doing is going on television as the General Secretary of a trade union saying, listen, you've been in the Prison Officers Association, it's been around for 80 years, it's done nothing. The conditions are diabolical, they haven't improved, they've degraded since the time of Queen Victoria, they've gone worse, not better. So something's got to be done about it. It isn't going to be done by the Prison Officers Association because they're run by chief officers and principal officers, and so it was. And also, in my new book, I hate to keep going on about this because I'm not just plugging my book, I'm trying to give you some information here. The Executive Committee, the National Executive Committee of the Prison Officers Association, had voted to lend themselves money, funds from the trade union. Tens, maybe, well, it was hundreds of thousands of pounds out of the funds that had been paid by as subscriptions by the prison officers. They'd taken it out and lent it to themselves on some pretext. I called the fraud squad in. Yeah, seriously, I went to Scotland Yard and called the fraud squad in and made a formal complaint. You can imagine how that went down. It was in all the papers, in the Guardian, in the Telegraph. It wasn't in the Sun because they were just publishing pictures of women's nipples and Freddie Starr hit my hamster. That kind of journalism. You know, I had to laugh when I see Kelvin Mackenzie on television trying to talk straight. You got to think, you know, during the time that you were the editor of the Sun, the main feature was page 3. Sam Fox, I think her name was, wasn't it? I'll tell you who I have met. Now, this is God's honest truth. Linda Lusardi. She was one of these page 3 models, wasn't she? We were doing a TV show in London and we're in the dressing rooms getting ready to go because it's only a small studio. And she said, I've got to get my mic on. I said, Linda, come here, I'll do it for you, love. And she had to have one of these mics, you know, wired up. And it goes up your clothing. And I said, just lift your skirt up, I'll do it. So I slipped my hand under her skirt. And I didn't go fondling her ass or anything like that. No, I was just doing it for a joke. I'll tell you what, a very intelligent lady. Got a good sense of humour, that lady. I like Linda Lusardi a great deal. And we had a roadie at the time because we were touring around doing shows all around the UK. I had a roadie at the time who was fascinated by Linda Lusardi. So I said to her, listen, my roadie's a real fan of yours, you know. I said, would you sign him an autograph? She said, sure. So I gave her a £20 note and she signed it to my roadie, Linda Lusardi. And I paid him, when I paid his wages next time, I put the £20 note in. I said, oh, by the way, you wanted Linda Lusardi's autograph. It's on that £20 note. Yeah, so I don't know if he spent it or not. I imagine he would, yeah, because back then £20 was quite a lot of money, 30 years ago. It's about that, yeah. Imagine that. Anyway, The Madness of Norman Brown. And that's the song dinger, folks. That's the sign to grab your goat and go for it. And I'm going to emasculate a song for you today. I am going to sing. Well, it's not singing, is it? It's a form of what you might call singing. This is a Johnny Cash song, and I'm going to sing it a bit in the Johnny Cash kind of style. Hopefully, anyway. And this is Ring of Fire. Especially for... You Edwards, yeah. Love is a burning thing, and it makes a fiery ring. Bound by wild desire, I fell into a ring of fire. I fell into a burning ring of fire. I went down, 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 and the flames went higher. And it burns, 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 the ring of fire, that ring of fire. I fell into a burning ring of fire. I went down, 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 and the flames went higher. And it burns, 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 that ring of fire, the ring of fire. Oh, the taste of love is sweet when hearts like ours meet. I fell for you like a child. Oh, the fire went wild. I fell into a burning ring of fire. I went down, 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 and the flames went higher. And it burns, 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 the ring of fire, the ring of fire. There you go. Especially for you, Edwards, and his little boyfriends. Thank you very much. Tales from the Jails.